Welcome back to the Lawyer Diaries, the number one podcast in careers in Kenya, according to, I think, Podcast Stats US.
Woo! So
So
exciting.
exciting. I don't even think a single person in Kenya has played our podcast, but I don't know how that statistic came to be. Alas, we don't do placements in Kenya, sadly. Okay, today we're doing another
Maybe we should start.
I know. Today we're doing another BigLaw Reddit Q&A. These are just a handful of interesting topics that we've picked, and you want to get into it?
Yes. All right. So the first question we're going to answer is leaving big law for small law. Have any big law attorneys left their firms to go to a small/boutique firm? If so, what has your experience been and what made you want to make the move? I feel like this is a good one. When we saw this, we wanted to talk about it because so many candidates that we speak to are interested in moving into mid law or a boutique. And I feel like sometimes boutiques, there's kind of this like ideal vision of what it would be like. And some attorneys incorrectly think that going to a small firm will fix all of the problems they've been having with their big firm. And Beck and I wanted to discuss why that is not always the case. Sometimes you can go to a small firm if there's specific reasons why you want to do that, and it can lead to a more fulfilling experience. But I think that there are some things that you need to be on the watch and on the lookout for. And I think the biggest takeaway is not all small firms are created equal, and there's way more variation between boutiques and mid-sized firms than there is between the big AmLaw 100 firms.
Yeah, it's so true. I think there's such a grass is always greener perspective from associates in Big Law with respect to in-house and boutiques. There's this smaller is better idea, and I think sometimes smaller is better, and for some people smaller is better, but there's definitely pros and cons. So I think let's just go through the pros and cons. um Starting out positive, or should we start out negative? No, let's do positive.
Um, Yes, and I think the interesting thing with these small firms, they almost feel like every single point there's we have examples where it's really positive, and then we have examples where it's negative. And one thing that we had talked about earlier is pay. At a lot of the AmLaw 100 firms, the firms follow Cravath scale. You know what your bonus will be if you hit a certain number of hours. You know what your base pay will be at each year level. And at a lot of these small firms, they don't follow that scale, and it can be a little bit of a shock for associates. Um, with the caveat that some firms that are small do follow Cravath scale.
Or pay more. So that's kind of
Exactly.
a pro con. I would say for my personality, it's more of a con because I like to know. The black box
Yeah.
kind of scares me. But that being said,
Mhm.
there are firms even in the AmLaw 100 that are black box. So
Right.
it's a definitely a middle, could go either way, compensation
Mm.
wise. I think a pro overall, again, there's variability across the board. You are more likely to have more responsibility and get more exposure to um, different types of, sorry, I'm having a brain fart, but you're able to do more at a smaller firm because there's just less people to compete with. So you might get more responsibility, the ability to, take a depo earlier on, or get a lot more client contact than you would at a big firm where there are so many associates and so many layers of hierarchy. At a smaller place, there's just less competition and less people to do the work. So that can be a great way to get more experience early on in your career.
Absolutely. Generally at small firms, cases and deals are staffed far more leanly. And that just means you get so much more experience earlier on. And this can be a negative for some people because it also means you will be more scrutinized. I think, like, if you're a third year associate at a big firm, there might be 50 of you if you're in a New York office or more. If you are at a small firm and there are only 3 of you, obviously, you're gonna get a lot more attention, and I think depending on your personality and what your goals are, that can be really, really great, or that can be a little bit daunting. So you should evaluate what kind of person you are and be real with yourself.
Totally. It's just a different type of pressure, right? I think a lot of people who go to law school, top schools, top firms are overachievers. And then you're like in this pressure pot in big law firm and you want to be a star and you want to stand out and it's so much work and it's so hard. But there's also a pressure when you're like one of two and the quality of your work product actually matters because that's what's getting filed. Like that's also super stressful.
Mhm. And that kinda leads us to another point, which is similar. At a big firm, if there's a partner that you don't really love working with, it can be a lot easier, especially if you're in one of the really big offices, to do work with another partner and find another group of associates that you really like working with, and you can kinda jump around a lot, and there are a lot of options. At a smaller firm, it's a lot harder to jump around and kind of avoid a partner if they aren't your favorite person to work with.
Totally agree. And also, it kind of cuts both ways because even though you might not be able to not work with someone that you don't love working with, you also can get the opportunity to work super closely with a partner that you really do enjoy. And I think that's something that a lot of juniors, not all, but a lot of juniors in Big Law don't really get the chance to get a lot of exposure or work directly with partners as a first or second year.
So true. I think at the biggest firms, when you're a junior associate, partners are this big, scary person who's just so far removed from your day to day. But if you're at a smaller firm, sometimes the matter is staffed with just one associate and one partner. And that partner is the person that you're in daily communication with. And I think that can be great for building confidence and also learning legal skills at a much faster rate because if you don't understand something, you can go to the partner straight away and they're invested in your growth and working with you as more of a teammate rather than this big scary person who's super far removed.
Yeah, totally. A point that is more of a con, I would say, is like there's just less support staff typically at a smaller place. When you're at these giant firms, you get, doc processing people working in other countries so you have support around the clock. That just doesn't always exist at a smaller place, and there might be less quality in the caliber of like assistants and paralegals. Um, because a lot of assistants slash paralegals who work in big law are like aspiring attorneys. And that's not necessarily the case at a smaller place. So I think that is can be a tough thing to adjust to if you're coming from big law. And then this is kind of like a con pro con where like because of that, often at a smaller place too, you might end up doing more administrative tasks that you weren't supposed to do or didn't have to do at a big law firm, and they probably didn't want you billing to do, and they still might not want you billing to do at a small place, but you have to. So I learned how to file docs, format docs, when I was working at a smaller place, and those were great skills to have, but, uh, it's not like you get to bill for all of that time.
Right. No client wants to see on their bill that a mid-level associate was reformatting a Word document. So I think that's a really good point. I think resources at big firms, like, you can take that for granted, and then when you're at a place without those resources, you realize how much of a time save they were. So I think that can be a little bit of a culture shock for some folks. But then also, like, some small firms have great resources. So I think, again, what I think a huge takeaway is, if you're thinking about going to a small firm, you really have to do your due diligence, because there's just such a wide range of experiences, because they're just not all built equally. And you really have to ask people, like, okay, like, what's the typical process for this? How are things staffed? And ask the hard questions when you're weighing offers.
Yeah, and it's really tough, but I wouldn't romanticize anything. I also have heard from people and even like my own friends and myself in law school, there's this like romanticization of working at like a mom and pop like trust and estates firm run by like a solo practitioner and like how fun and how like easy and eh, you know, that's not the reality of working at a small place. It's often can be a lot more pressure and a lot more work. So,
Yeah.
I would just be realistic with your expectations, and like Erica said, the best thing you can do is ask the questions, ask as many questions as you can, um, before making a move.
Mhm. Yeah.
Especially if you know someone who was maybe at your firm or in your practice group who made that kind of move, that can be really valuable information, to just, like, have a chat with them about because they really have seen both sides and they know, like, what you're currently living, so that can be really helpful.
Yeah, that's such great advice, and if there's not someone from your exact firm who's made the move, ask someone from a peer firm, because they also probably have some good advice for you, and I think so few associates do that, and there's no one else who can give it to you, real like that, other than someone who's made a very similar transition to you.
Yeah, totally. Alright, our next question is what to do when website time ends? I'm a senior-ish M&A associate in New York City. I got the talk, got website time. I've been interviewing actively and am optimistic something will materialize any minute now. But it hasn't yet, and my website time is almost done. Assuming I don't secure something before website time ends, what do I need to do? Do I need to tell recruiters I've been working with? Presumably, yes, assuming they're sending in new applications. But what if they aren't? Do I need to update applications that are already in progress? So as, Hong Kong Dong Schlong responded I'm not kidding. I didn't know that was the person. As for an extension, not more money, just more website time. And I think that's our answer as well. Firms really aren't stingy with website time. Um, if you're not asking for money, you're just asking for more time. You tell them, like, I'm in the process of interviewing and um, I'm hoping something turns up soon, but it hasn't yet. Can I just get 2 more months?
Yeah, I also think the not more money part of that is so important. I know that people have financial obligations, but Beck and I cannot stress enough how much website time means for the lateral process. Like, if you don't have a page on your firm's website, that is an immediate red flag to recruiters, to law firms. So like, that should be your number one priority, even if that means you're not going to get paid for a little bit. Like, I like not having website time is it's kind of like the firm's way of talking to each other and saying like, "Ooh, like what's happening with this candidate right now?" So like get more website time. That should be your number one priority.
Yeah, the firm bio is important. People actually look at it like internal recruiters at firms and obviously headhunters. We actually have a blog post on redwoodlegalsearch.com about how to draft your firm bio and like what you should include and the importance of it. So it's definitely important, and firms actually aren't that stingy about it. If they're giving you that time to land on your feet somewhere else, they should give you an extension if you haven't found anything yet. Um,
Mm.
with respect to the other questions, I mean, I would say that you'll probably get the extension, so you won't need to update.
Most people who ask for more website time and make it clear that they're not asking for more money will get an extension. Some rare occasions you don't. And I mean, I think that's a different question for a different time. But yes, having an up-to-date firm bio is so important. People look at it. Look at Becca's blog posting for that, for how to have a good firm bio, what to include in it, etc. And I think even if you haven't been let go and you're thinking about lateraling, you should still update your firm bio. That should be one of the first things you update along with your resume, because everyone is going to look at it and they're going to have questions if it's not updated.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the third and final question we want to answer is a little bit more of a fun, lighthearted question, because I feel like we've talked about more intense things today. Um, it is, has anyone met their significant other in law school slash big law? I'm in my late 20s at a T14 school with a big law NYC job lined up for 2L summer. Recently found out about like the eighth couple in our school that is now coupled up. Feel like I'm severely behind, and after seeing the big law hours slash speaking with attorneys during my 1L summer, IDK how or when I'm supposed to date slash meet someone. Does anyone have any success stories? Um, this is a fun one, and Becca, I know you have a success story.
Yeah. Okay, so this is funny because I heard also from a senior associate while I was summering that I needed to lock down someone because once you start the job, it's so hard. Um, and I actually met my husband in law school and we started dating my 3L year, but we were friends uh, from like 1L fall because we were in the same section. And yeah, it was crazy. I had no intentions of, like, marrying him or dating him from the get. It just, like, happened, and I feel lucky because we have gotten to know each other for so many years now and really like have been through it all together. And I personally, I know some attorneys feel strongly about not dating other attorneys, but I enjoy that we have been on this journey together. And I just like understand his work, he understands my work, and you know, I like that. Could I have dated while I was working? I don't know. Erica did. So
Yeah, so I met my now husband when I was a second year associate in Big Law, and he is not an attorney. He's in a completely different field. And yeah, I dated when I was a junior associate at a big firm, and like it was definitely challenging, but I feel like if you know what you're looking for and you prioritize people who fit within, the guidelines that you've made for yourself for what you're looking for, and you don't waste your time when you see red flags or anything, then it is totally doable. I think that a lot of people, when they go into dating, well, okay, I won't say a lot of people, but I would say like one reason why I found dating to be sustainable while I was a junior associate at a big firm is because I really made it a thing where I dated more for quality rather than quantity. I did not go on dates with very many people, and the people I did go on dates with, it was, like, very well thought out, we had good chemistry, but also, like, I had certain criteria that I knew I was looking for, and they fit within that, and I didn't make any, um like, I didn't lower that for anyone because I didn't wanna waste my time, and I also didn't wanna waste another person's time knowing that I would not see a future in it. So, like, I feel like that's one of the reasons why it was doable for me, like, I just really didn't waste my time. And yeah, now we're married. We got married this March, and, we're super, super happy, and, like, it's definitely doable. I don't think that people should feel like they absolutely must meet someone in law school. I think if you do, that's fantastic. And obviously Becca did, but I think, like, you can definitely date when you're an associate as well.
Yeah, there were a couple of couples in my there was a lot of dating in my section, actually, even when, like, before my husband and I dated, and there's another couple from my section that got married, and, like, she's always, like, liking my stuff because 'cause I'm like we see each
That's
other, like, it's funny. And there's also always, if you start working, you get too busy, you can always just date someone in your, firm, which I've seen before. I don't recommend that, but,
You
people do
have
that.
seen that. Yeah, you can date someone at your firm. I know people who not in law, but in tech, they were on the same team and they're now married. Like, you can definitely like, it definitely happens, but also, like, it doesn't need to be that way, like, there's options, but I think, like, the main thing is you are responsible with for how you spend your time, and your time is your most valuable commodity. So spend it wisely and spend it on people who you think, like, could actually be a good person for you to date, and don't waste it because it's so valuable, especially when you're a busy associate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, don't waste your time. I
Oh,
think it's so important for boys and for girls, for everyone.
yeah. Well, that's all we have for today. Again, thanks for listening to Kenya's number one career podcast. If you have any questions you'd like us to answer that aren't on the Big Law Reddit thread, of course, feel free to email us or comment below. But till next time.